Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Johnny, thank you. We appreciate the lady in the club and what they do. And I want to welcome y'all for being here today. Certainly appreciate the opportunity to be here once. Well, sorry, Channel 13. But hey, let's give Channel 13 a hand in the Sun News because they're actually here. I'm disappointed the mayor's not here. I used to work for John, and he's preparing for his big fundraising event tonight, or his campaign kickoff. You're running for your 4th term. You're going to the group that's funding you with thousands and thousands of dollars. I mean, you should walk into that meeting tonight, and that should be better than talking to your wife. But you need support. You certainly should be able to get your support from that group. 26 years ago, I began this process. What were y'all doing 26 years ago? Where were you? 26 years ago, think back. 26 years. I've been fighting for the city of Myrtle Beach. I've been trying to bring issues up. And in the city of Myrtle Beach, there is nobody else. Whether there's 21,700 people registered or 30,000 residents, there's no one that's gone before the city and fought for these issues any longer than I have. And it's kind of interesting when we look out in the beauty in what Johnny spoke of lately. Beautiful swash. Do y'all know last week that swash was 92 times higher than the safe swimming limits the DHED puts out? There's an issue. That's one of the many issues, but as we look out, there are just some things we have to address going forward. I need to tell you a little story. I'm a big supporter of the ride-a-thon, and a number of years ago, the ride-a-thon was taking place. We used to live back here in a house, and rode up, and once you get past the pool, that's the city limits. So this is actually in the county. And we haven't done that. All right. And we got up here and I said, am I going to ride clear back downtown, go back to the Air Force Base and take the horses to the house? Or in my deed restriction of the house up here in the Dunes Club, it said we could actually have horses. So Laura and I decided we'd just walk our horses across the lawn out there. We got out there, walked along the swash, and then what would happen on a cold November day or in October, whenever that horse-a-thon was, they were out back and everybody was here at the Dunes Club, all having a dedication to Cecil Brandon for a fire pit. So here goes Mark and Laura walking our horses through the Dunes Club, got on a couple cart paths, went up through the woods, and kept the horses overnight in our lot because the deed restriction said we can actually have horses if you live in a Dunes Club. Just like Alan Clemens has horses down on his street on 13th Avenue South. This is a big issue. And I have a couple of questions. Does anybody in here believe advertising is more important than public safety?
No.
And that's what I've been being told for 2 years. And people are finally starting to listen. It's kind of interesting. Randall Wallace is now putting out stuff on his campaign stuff saying public safety first. Wonder where he got that from, but he just forgot to put MP public safety first. And then the second question is, are you safer now than you were 2 years ago?
No.
4 years ago?
No.
8 years ago?
No.
That really is the issue, ladies and gentlemen. So it all comes down to, I think there's 3 sets of issues in this campaign. First, the meat of the campaign. What are those issues? What are 1, 2, and 3? What are the top 10? In my opinion, if you listed the top 10 issues, you'd have the first 7, public safety, public safety, public safety, public safety, then you'd get down. And it's jobs for number 9. I guess it'd be the top 8. Number 9 and number 10 would be family values. But I'd like to ask you, are you going to be manipulated like you were 2 years ago? Or are you going to sit and listen to the issues? If y'all remember these mail pieces that went out, said Mark McBride was a hypocrite. Don't rewind the cassette. Why would you go back to Mark McBride? Mark McBride is preying on the voters from 2 years ago. These were chamber-associated people that spent tens of thousands of dollars to run a smear campaign.
Of our money.
And then you had the other pack that they used Myrtle Beach is heading in the right direction. Vote for the incumbents. Myrtle Beach is open for business. Safe as it's ever been. Things are great. Safer communities. Nothing could be farther from the truth. And I stood up here 2 years ago, and Mills was here. I actually do have a long-range plan, y'all. Reached into my pocket, you can tell how often I wear this suit top. And this was my thing from 2 years ago. I stood up here, we had the room turned around, I spoke, and I want to thank y'all. I started this campaign 2 years ago. 100 full-time officers, 3,000 additional law officers for Memorial Day, innovative job creation, and family. Be the family beach once again. I disagree with Ms. Bethune. I think we can put 100 officers on the street. I think we can do it. Certainly, if we'd have done it over the last 24 months, we would have had 100 officers on the street. They wanted to deny it. They didn't want to talk about it. I don't want to hear any more excuses. You can put the officers on the street. We'll figure out a way out of it. And just to help you, Brenda, I've already gone through all this. I've looked at the numbers. If we use Mark Pruitt, he makes $100,000 a year as package as a city employee. He's been the public information director for the last 15 years. So, okay, if we were in a court of law, we'd say he's an expert. He says it's $200,000 daily. If you take the $200,000 daily divided by 10,000, that means that's a factor of 20. Take the national average of 15 or 16 officers, we need 320 officers. We only have 220 officers, or 100 short. That's to get us to average, ladies and gentlemen. Do you want to be average? You want to be a C? What happens when your children bring home C's? Are you happy? No, we don't want to be a C. We want to be better than a C. If you look at Washington, D.C., they have 52 officers per 10,000. So it can be done. Next Monday night, I'll invite you to Mary C. to the Canal Street. I'm going to propose a jobs package that I think is very innovative. It's following the city of Charleston's lead, what they've done over the last 20 years. It's something we can do. Buford is now doing it. They're 1 year into the program. I want to do a 3-year pilot program into creating innovative jobs. And it goes back to family values. We have to go back and be the family beach we used to be. Then there's the issues of nuts and bolts. In nuts and bolts, we need a master parking plan. And to the people in Carolina Forest, the chances are it's not going to be free. I don't know what it's going to look like, but we need to come in and have a real master plan. We need to have public parking lots with showers and other facilities. We need to come back and address stormwater. We need to tell the people when a swash is nasty and we have to close it, we have to close it for the safety of the people, whether it's a 24-hour, 48 hours. But the idea of sending people out here, if my children have been out here, on Friday, and it was that high, and no one told anybody, that's wrong, ladies and gentlemen. We have to ask for a forensic audit of the chamber, and I'll tell you why. $138,567,350 reasons why we need an audit of the chamber. And if there's nothing to hide, if you go back and look some Black's Law Dictionary, it's just to go in and make sure everything's right. It's very common in the IRS and tax issues to make sure things are being done. And for the chamber, if they're afraid of it, what are they afraid of? No one's afraid of anything if you don't have something to hide. Single-member districts, it's actually right. I proposed that, and they didn't fly in the last term. Now I want to have a plan to go in and close streets. I want to go into neighborhoods. When you come into the Dunes Club, there's 3 entrances. I want to go throughout the city and go to the neighborhood, have subdivisions, and close some of the street ends, and make it so you have to go around and come back into neighborhoods, and not make it so every neighborhood becomes a thoroughfare for all the visitors. There's some interesting things, and then let's get excited. Let's do some different things. What about an auditorium? We've talked about a big swimming facility in the past. We keep doing softball fields. Well, if you do softball fields, you can go to Florence, you can go to Rock Hill, you can go to North Myrtle Beach and do softball. If we're going to do sports tourism, let's do it different than everybody else does it. Lewis Ocean Bays. It's 9,393 acres sitting out here. It's a heritage trust. The state doesn't have the money to operate it. Let's go out there, annex that in. Instead of having just beach patrol officers, we actually have rangers, and it would be ecotourism, and we have one of the largest park systems in the nation right here in the city. Go down Let's go back and revisit Ocean Boulevard. Go down and take the restrictions off. Make the boulevard look like Times Square. We can do things. Go back to Burroughs and Chapin. You can, if in Columbia they can set up the fair in a week, we can go down for rides and do something and have instead of just an empty field at the end of where the pavilion used to be. Fire pits, I'm going to propose an idea of fire pits where you go and actually sit on the beach and you're allowed to have fire pits. Food trucks, and I went yesterday to the meeting for food trucks and it went on and on. Just, I hate to say it, the county's ahead of us on food trucks. And then something else we need to do is we need to have a chaplain. The other day I intentionally and purposely, when I announced and filled my paperwork at City Hall, I called Laura's cousin and he said, Mark, I'll come and pray. I said, John, don't pray for me, don't pray for my success, pray for the city, pray for the future, pray for those with the hurricanes and everything, but do a broad prayer for the people. And Johnson, he came and he said that, he said, I can't pray unless you use Jesus Christ's name. I said, well, that's how I expect you to pray. Well, in 2012, the city, in October of 2012, on the consent agenda where they could hire city attorney Ellenberg said that you're not allowed to pray to a deity. Well, in 2014, United States Supreme Court said you can pray to a deity, and they've never changed it. And the other day when John led the prayer on my signing, that was the first time Jesus Christ's name had been spoken in the City Hall in any official capacity. At the end of the day, you want to know why we're where we are? Because we've lost our values, we've lost our priorities. And so, one last question. As a number of y'all know, Laura and I went through a traumatic experience there. It wasn't a whole lot of fun. She's my biggest blessing. We just celebrated 30 years. Can't say enough about my children. Strother should finish Coastal hopefully in the spring after being 3 years in the Army. My daughter Mills is married. She lives in Aiken. She runs a school program for children. And O'Neill's going to graduate hopefully in May. But going back to Laura, Laura gave me another chance. And I was asked the other day, what would I do different? Well, a lot of things I wouldn't do different. They said, you don't negotiate. Well, 92% of the time, I was with the majority, or I was on with the unanimous votes on city council over 12 years. There's no way to negotiate when the issue is the hotel. Do you want $62 million in debt? You either sell out and go along, or you don't. You can't negotiate that. The other one is like Cal Ripken. Why does he need $2 million for a private baseball thing from the city taxpayers? You either support it or you don't. So some of those things I won't change, but I would just offer, I think I'm a little bit more mature. At 53, it's a little different than when you're 33 or when you're 26. I think I've grown up. Hopefully I'm a little bit more humble. I'm still working on that. So I would just ask you to give me another chance. I'll ask for your vote again. Laura did it. She gave me another chance. And our marriage is better than it's ever been. And just maybe this mayor would be better than he ever was the first time. God bless you. And then after all those hires, they were already in the system. That wasn't any new hires. They'd already counted those as new hires. That was just a PR thing to go down and say, oh, look what we've done. They were already in the system. They were coming out of graduation. They've been in the year program that Brenda had already talked about. When we suspend officers, there's some issues out there. But it goes back to, y'all explained to me, we've been using up to 60 officers at night from outside law enforcement. They agreed we were in a pinch. The pinch goes back to what Ed said, it's sorry management that we don't have the people. So the governor comes down here and it comes up that we need 60 outside officers. In this year's budget, they put 5 more officers in. That's 55 short. So going into January of this year, getting ready to go into the season next year, we're 55 short. And since July 1st when they started, they've done nothing. They're setting them up to continue to fail. We have to do things different. And I hold Mr. Peterson responsible. He's the one. Council, in fairness, the council saying, Council's given them some direction. I don't know what the direction is they give them, but I'm gonna give them credit that they know that there's a problem.